Karate Kid Part 2. Boing.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm eating a delicious chocolate chip cookie right now. All right, so what else? What did we like about this movie?
Well, I really like the reverence they had for Kung Fu in this movie, which, granted, is pretty common. Like, you'll see that in, like, a lot of movies. But comparing this to, like, the original Karate Kid, even, like, when he's actually learning the karate from Mr. Miyagi, he's still kind of an idiot about it. I just remember one scene when Mr. Miyagi finally teaches him how to punch, and he's still cracking stupid jokes and being an idiot.
In this movie, you get a real sense that the protagonist is really developing an understanding of Kung Fu, and it's changing who he is.
I think you made a point, like, before I watched this movie about how in this version of it, we actually learn why Jackie Chan taught him take off jacket, but in the original one, Mr. Miyagi just makes him paint a fence, and we never really see why. We see that he learns the move, but we don't learn the overall reason for that.
Yeah, the way that Mr. Han, who's basically Mr. Miyagi, teaches the main character, like the specific method actually is another thing where they tie it more into the character rather than just kind of being clever. And it ties in with the way he just kind of has a bad attitude toward his mom, and it's something that he's familiar with, and so doing the repetition of picking up the jacket and putting it on the hanger is something that he's gonna understand more than.
This is how you punch. This is how you block.
Yeah. And so
it'll also like teach him a more. It'll also teach him like to respect it a lot more too.
And so and with the manual labor in the first movie, he's just kind of like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but okay. And Mr. Miyagi's never like, this is why I did this. He was just like,
not until he like starts throwing punches at him.
Yeah,
but we get that scene in this movie too. But like right after that, our Mr. Miyagi, his name's Han in this one. Okay. Mr. Han is like, so you see, Kung Fu is everywhere, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's the cool thing in the first movie where he's like, oh, that stuff was karate. Okay. But it's like in this, they kind of spell it out for us, which is cool because the audience realizes that Kung Fu is actually everything. It's not just a special way of putting on a jacket. It's everything you do.
Yeah, and if you actually like research Kung Fu and like learn about all the different styles, that's basically what the Shaolin monks and like anyone who developed a Kung Fu did, is like they saw something, they thought, hey, that could be a Kung Fu, and then they just devoted a couple years to like making it a Kung Fu.
Right, and like the different animal styles tie into that, don't they?
A lot of stories about how a Kung Fu is made is about is like some Shaolin monk or like some person just like went walking in the woods, or like they went into the mountains to retreat for a while, and then they saw like one animal face off with another animal, and they decided, oh hey, I see what they're doing there, and then they decided, okay, I'm gonna use the moves of this animal and then the moves of this animal and mix it together, and that way I have the best of both worlds with that.
And I think that's awesome. And they actually kind of address that in this movie in a way, in that we see a woman training with a snake.
The tie into the old movie is this is when Mr. Miyagi's doing the crane style. The woman who's like hypnotizing the snake is basically doing the same pose, but she's doing something more in-depth, more engaging, something that's a much more difficult task than just standing on one foot acting like a bird.
Yeah. It's something that we get a better understanding of as an audience than just watching Mr. Miyagi do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say though that I've seen both Karate Kid and the Kung Fu Kid now, and
it's been a while since I watched the original.
I find it hard to believe that the evil, the antagonists. I have a hard time believing that an actual dojo or whatever you want to call it like that actually exists. What's your opinion there?
Well, douchebags and assholes come in every walk of life, and a friend of mine who actually used to take Taekwondo has an interesting story about like some guy was trying to like come in to the same area like he of his Taekwondo school and actually came in and tried to like challenge his teacher to like the territory. So yeah, those douchebags exist in real life.
But I mean, have you ever heard of like a teacher that teaches that you don't give any mercy to your enemy ever?
Um, I haven't heard an exact story about that, but I would not deny they exist.
Yeah. I mean, in some aspects with the filmmaker just kind of taking advantage of, most people aren't going to know anything about this.
Yeah.
So, whatever we tell them, they're going to believe. And I think like that's when when that does happen when the filmmaker abuses that the audience is just going to believe whatever they give them on the subject matter is when you see a bad kung fu movie.
Yeah. I'm sorry I like trailed off in my mind a little bit there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
What were you saying about?
I think the movies that you think are bad kung fu movies are the ones where the filmmakers take advantage that the audience isn't a general audience isn't going to know what's correct.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also, what makes a bad kung fu movie is like no reverence for the actual style of martial arts they're using. Like on that short list, there would be this Karate Kid movie. There would be the Kill Bill movies, which I know you're thinking like, okay, that's not the same kind of lesson here about like, oh, martial arts is about caring and loving and all that, and Kill Bill is like, I'm gonna get revenge because you fucked my life over. But there's still, when it comes down to it, about like actually fighting and the way you fight and handling your sword and your body, it's very respected for the martial artist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The filmmakers are doing it as accurately as they can.
Yeah. For a bad example, I would mention the Dead or Alive movie, which was a really bad adaptation of a pretty good video game. And there's just no time. There's like no time when they just stop and like reflect on like their art, their style at all. There's just relentless fight scene after fight scene, and like they shoot it really terribly. And like another thing that really bothers me about a lot of like American-made martial art movies is like they try to make it over stylized. Like they'll throw in shaky cam and like all this extra crap, and that just degrades the original martial art. And like I feel that a martial art is more spiritual, and like in the movie it should be seen as like a spiritual kind of thing.
And we definitely get that in this movie. Mm-hmm. There's a good amount of times that shows us that it's never really about the violence at all. It's about being focused and being still.
In the moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment. Now, Jackie Chan has had a really long career of being the kung fu guy or martial arts guy in movies.
The falling off of buildings and like almost breaking his neck guy.
Yeah. And, obviously his career's gotten better than that. But, it's a shame that you don't see him in many roles like this, where he doesn't need to be goofy or anything to be accepted. And I feel like in my lifetime, that's mostly how I've seen him in like the 90s movies and stuff that he was in, where it's like the director thought that he always had to have this slapstick comedy thing going on for Jackie Chan.
Also, this is the first time like where Jackie Chan's one of the main names on the cover of the movie, and he only gets like one fight scene.
Yeah,
and he really gets to show off his acting abilities in this one.
Yeah, and he does a great job.
Mm-hmm. It's a very well developed character.
I'm sure that when people heard that this movie was going to be remade, they were like, "Ugh, really, Hollywood? And then when they heard who the two leads were, they're like, oh, really? The kid from Will Smith's son and Jackie Chan? Come on.
I remember like when they were just talking about like this coming out, and they said, "Oh, Jackie Chan's gonna be the Mr. Miyagi in this movie." And I'm like, "Oh God, they're like trying to make Jackie Chan and pass him off as a Japanese guy. Come on, you can find a real Japanese guy these days."
There's a whole country of them.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue this in part 3.
All right.